Here we are.
You're pulling a 3-hour podcasting shift right now.
A little less. We've been going a little shorter on RaceBrain.
Yeah. Is there ever a shortage of things to talk about on RaceBrain for you guys?
Never.
Why don't you tell the audience listening? I bet you more than half doesn't really even know what RaceBrain is.
Yeah, RaceBrain is the podcast outlet for not learning about running. It's about being a fan of obstacle course racing and hybrid sports and just pure speculation, opinions, hot takes, exploring narratives, things like that. It's the opposite of what this show is. This show is trying to help us become better runners. The other one is solely to entertain and BS. And it's
Nah,
not
and
about typical
inform.
running.
You learn about sport in the show for sure.
You might.
Do you guys ever talk? So I was on RaceBrain for just over a year, I think, and then I got spread a little too thin, and I didn't want to cheat on my wife, which is the running public. And you're fine cheating on your wife, which is the running public, with RaceBrain, which I don't
Oh, it's
understand.
polygamy.
Oh, your open relationship polygamy. Got it. Well,
Podcast polygamy.
I could only devote myself to one woman, the running public, and so other than my actual wife, Jess. But point being, since I left, I haven't listened a whole lot. So still same format, still BSing on current events and speculating on upcoming, kind of rapping on past events, previewing future ones. That's what I'm gathering.
Yeah, but now we're trying to be under 90 minutes each time.
Oh. And no pure running content, though. You're not talking about Boston, or you're not talking about the Olympics in great detail.
And a little bit about Olympics.
Okay. Mostly sticking to hybrid and OCR still.
99% hybrid and OCR, yes.
Okay.
Very niche.
Yeah, very niche. All right. So what are we doing here today? I actually haven't decided what I'm going to say today on the given topic, but I have a feeling it will come to me. What about you?
I'm probably one step farther. I have some thoughts on this because I have thought about this very thing every time an athlete asks me this question. And this topic comes up on the running forums like Let's Run a lot. Every major marathon, every marathon season, this comes up. So we received a listener's submitted question that I wanted to make an entire Training Tuesday about. And this is going to be a weird Training Tuesday in that it is going to be the least, maybe not the least, but one of the less science-based or proven data-based Training Tuesdays. And it's going to be a lot of opinion and speculation, but informed via experience and data and science. So it's like 50-50 today.
This would be like if RaceBrain were to do a running topic.
Yes.
That's what me and you, you and I, me and you, or you and I? Me and you.
You and I.
This is what we are going to do today, folks.
You're an English major, Kirk. You always put yourself second.
I was not an English major.
I thought you had some sort of component on writing.
You knock that off. No.
Oh.
All right.
Then I remove all expectations.
No, keep your standards high with me. All right. So introduce the topic.
Why do American marathoners suck at the marathon compared to the rest of the world in terms of how we stack up against them in all other distances? And we don't suck. But why are we worse compared to the rest of the pro running world at the marathon distance compared to 10K, 5K, mile, 3K steeple, that whole thing?
So if you're Connor Mance, who obviously listens to this podcast, Clayton Young, who obviously listens, Dakota Lindworm, who obviously listens, Emma Bates, they all listen. They're big fans.
Big fans.
Do you think any of them have hurt feelings hearing you say that? Or do you think they can go, yeah, we do suck comparatively to our shorter distance contingencies?
They hear this all the time. And this is not our question. I don't believe the U.S. sucks. I believe, though, that there is a bigger gap between us and the rest of the world in the marathon than any other running distance. That's not entirely true, and I think we'll get to that, than most other running distances. But we are responding to a question which asks, why are they bad? And they're not bad, but there is a bigger disparity But yeah, their feelings are a little hurt because they have a right to be, and I think we'll cover
Mhm.
why they have a right to disagree with that statement.
So let's set the stage here first. Let's paint a picture so the listening audience understands what we are talking about. Let's talk about both men and women, U.S. marathoners. When we talk this, when is the last podium? And we're not going to know this exactly, but hopefully you do. Podium, U.S. marathoner in either a major or the Olympics. Can you recall our last U.S. podium athlete in either a major or the Olympics?
We've
And if
had
so,
both in
who?
the last cycle.
So tell me who and when and where. Do you know off the top of your head?
We had Des in Boston in that rainy year,
She won, didn't she?
who just flat out won.
Yep.
We had in the marathon, we had the women's marathon in the prior Olympics. We had a third place finish
Who was that?
from Molly Seidel.
Ah, yes, Seidel. That was awesome, by the way.
It's
She did take
really
third.
awesome.
Yep. Molly Seidel. Yep. Good memory.
And I'm blanking on any other majors recently or worlds.
And then it goes back to like Frank Shorter in like 1976.
No, we had stuff in between there. We had Dina Kastner in the marathon, Meb Kefleski in the marathon.
Uh-huh.
Shalane Flanagan had, I think, Boston and New York, for sure. New York. We've had others, but yeah, it's sparse. It's few and far between.
And then there's been dozens, or let's say hundreds of African athletes and
Mhm.
other nationality athletes podium, and we have maybe a half a dozen in the last decade U.S. athletes. Just a blanket statement, probably not exactly accurate, but the sentiment is for every one U.S. marathoner who lands on a major podium or Olympic podium, there are 20 others from other countries. Let's just say.
Yeah. But in track and field, if we start talking about distance events at the mile or 1500, even if we extend down to the 800 meters, there's a US athlete in contention from 800 meters up till 10K,
Every time.
practically every Olympics. Not always in
Well,
the women's 10K.
and you can talk, right, and that's why I want to set the stage here is the comparative, right? Let's say
Mhm.
1 out of 20 in the marathon, but then you talk about either the world champs every year in track and field, or the Olympics, or the major world track series, right?
Mhm.
Um, and you talk that there is a U.S. athlete in, I mean, everything from every field event, every even sprint, and then every mid distance or distance event, podiuming at, I'm calling podium top three at almost every race. And at the Olympics, we were, gosh, on the men and women's side across the board, had athletes sticking their nose in almost all of them.
Yeah.
So it's night and day difference,
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah, it really is. And the only place we lack, like I said, that the women's 10K, sometimes the women's 5K. And that's about sometimes the men's 10K. That's
Yeah, they
about
are.
the only place where we're not consistently a medal threat.
Yeah, and I would say, and in the men's 10K, in every cycle I can think of since in the last couple of decades, there's been somebody at least knocking on the door.
We've had
Fifth,
Galen
fifth or not,
and yeah,
Grant Fisher,
Grant
and then
Fisher
others right
always.
up. Yeah. Okay, so we would say like what fold better are we at the shorter distance events compared to the marathon? Let's just draw the line, 10K and under, and then the marathon. What do you think? Put that into context.
Tenfold better, let's say.
So for some reason, for the U.S. American marathon contingency, we peter out after the 10K, and we're here today to just BS about why we think that is. Is that
Yes.
exactly right?
Yes.
Okay. You want to start? Just wanted to make sure the stage was set so people understood
Yeah.
where we're at.
And I think the difference, there's a difference between championship race marathons and regular marathons. And the difference between those is very astounding. I think we have one man in the top 200 times in the world, maybe two in the last 5 years of the marathon. But we've had multiple men top 10 at majors or Olympic or world championships.
Mm-hmm.
Women, kind of same story. And that shows the disparity between, or the difference between, running a championship tactical race and running for flat out time. I don't like the concept of time trialing, but running just let's call it paced marathons
Mm-hmm.
versus unpaced marathons. Our American, United States marathon crew are very good racers in unpaced races, but we
Mm-hmm.
still medal significantly less than their on the track compatriots.
Do you think that might even be low hanging fruit? Your descriptor right there as to why on the track, the US has performed better because it's mostly championship racing and tactical. And if every race were a time trial on the world stage, the US would fall short. Do you think that's a possibility right there?
I do. And I think it's a sliding scale. It's a continuum here where you start at the 800 meter or the 100 meters and go up from there. Each distance we go up, the less representation we would have in an all out 4-time paced race. In the 100, we have some of the best in the world. In the 200, same thing. 400, same thing. 800, same thing, but it starts to change slightly. Now that we don't have Donovan Brazier and Athing Mo, we now have
Well, we
second,
have them,
not racing
a
at the world
thing.
level.
Well, we don't know that yet.
We haven't had them recently. They've been too
Okay.
injured.
Yeah.
Bryce Hoppel just won indoor worlds though. So like we have some representation, but on the Diamond League at the Olympics recently, we're top 5, but we're not necessarily winning or top 3 recently other than world indoors. And then we get to the 1500 or the mile, and our men's side is as good as anything on the earth. We just went 1-3 in the Olympics in the 1500 meter. But if you do paced, rabbited, wave light, whatever you want to use, 1500 meters, we still have 2 to 3 in the top 6.
Mm-hmm.
Happens at the Diamond League races, happens at any sort of big race. Women's side, we're a little behind that, but we're a little behind that on the women's side. Our women's 1500, 3K steeple, mile, 5K, they're all a notch behind the top foreigners, but the men's aren't currently. Then you move up to the 5K, and we still have 5K athletes that in Diamond League races or rabbited races can run in the top 5.
Yes.
10K as well.
Since we're just throwing opinions and not facts, by the way.
These are all facts at this point, up to
well, no, right. But what I'm about to walk you
Okay.
into is not. These are not facts. Okay, so let's say in the world we have American men or women. I don't care how you look at this. We can just each of the same here. We have 1 or 2 in the top 100 marathon times in the US. The US only claims 1 or 2 in this calendar year of 2024, let's just say, roughly. So there's 98 people better than our, in the same circle from other countries. So if we were to walk it
Do you want
down
me
in
to
the
pull up
10K,
the actual list?
can you do that easily?
I can do.
I mean, I would be interested to see the actual numbers, and I guess we could be speaking facts instead of potential fiction. I think it's just fascinating me to break this down. What I'm trying to walk you into, since you have your stuff pulled up, is I want to know, like, then what is our best guess for the 10K, 5K, 1500, 800? Like, I want to know the ratios.
Well, let's go 10K. Men's 10K right now.
Yep. Let's walk through it. Let's get some data.
World rankings we're going off of right now.
Sure, rankings are fine. They got to be somewhat accurate.
We have number 3, number 10, 19,
How many are on the
20.
list? How many are on the list?
I mean, I'm scrolling down to 100.
Okay, so how many, we can cap it at 20, 50, or 100. Like, how many are in the top whatever? Give it, let's just so we can go across the board.
3, 4.
Putting you on the spot here, sorry.
We have 9 in the top 100 ranks.
On the
Rank.
men's side.
Yes.
Okay.
Now move down to 5K.
Yeah, let's do it. Do we need to fill this space with elevator music or something?
I'll try to be quick, but yeah, that would be better.
Be patient, folks. This is worth your time. This is important info that we should have had prep beforehand, but we didn't know it'd go this direction.
I'm seeing 14.
So we had 9 in the 10K, you said?
Yeah.
And 14 in the top 100 in the 5.
Yeah.
Where do we want to go, to the 15 and
Well,
stop? Or to go to
the 5,000 goes 3K, 2 mile, 5K. It's an aggregate ranking.
Okay. Put them together, whatever. So as we got shorter, we increased the U.S. contingency.
1,500.
Mm-hmm. Be very curious about this one. It's going to be a higher number. No? Hanging by a thread here, Brakken. Come on, give it to me.
21.
21 in the 15, 14 in the 5K, 9 in the 10K. All right. And then set us up for the marathon. So right now the numbers are going down as the distance goes up.
That would seem to be accurate. Now this puts half marathon and marathon together.
Okay.
Now, at least in the episode audio only, this dead space will be cut out.
Not in the video. I don't know how many viewers we get each week. Bless your hearts who watch us talk.
2. Who are they?
2. Connor Manson, Clayton Young, I would imagine.
Yes, they are.
So these are just the men, though. We could do the women, but probably similar ratios down the line, correct?
Yeah.
For women as well?
Yeah. So you can see the trend gets worse and the drop off is steep.
And just to reverse psychology this thing, folks, we could have the opposite conversation. Why are the Americans so good at the shorter and mid distance races?
Mhm.
What makes them great there, right? That's not the part of the conversation today, but just to not have like a negative twist on this, because we could easily flip flop the what's and whys. Why are we so good?
Yeah.
On the track, but we're having the conversation is why are we underperforming in the long races? So just to make sure we're clear there. So I didn't know how we'd start this, but I'm glad we kind of set the tone. Begin.
So my first theory is that the more anaerobic or explosive an event is in nature, the less factors go into being good at it. So you can be, let's just say, let's water it down to the least accurate but most specific number of fitness you can come up with for this purpose, and I'd say VO2 max. The higher your VO2 max is, the higher your correlation to being good at running, the shorter the distance is. So if you go 1,500 through marathon, you're probably going to use the maximum amount of your oxygen transport system or your skill set, your fast twitch muscle fiber, or your anaerobic threshold, whatever number you want to put on it. That one thing matters more the shorter the race is. Because
VO2 max.
It could be VO2 max, could be anaerobic threshold, it could be fast twitch muscle fibers. I'm just saying talent or skill. One single talent or skill marker can trump many others the shorter the race is. In a 100-meter dash, it could be something like reaction time.
Sure.
It could be drive phase. It could be top end speed. If you just have one great thing, the shorter the race is, the more that one thing can make you effective. Whereas the longer the race goes on, the more pieces of talent you have to have in play. And so I think by nature, these shorter events are more equal playing field events because you don't have to come up with the best overall athletes to do it. You just need a skill or two and really, really good training to maximize it. And that's all you have to get right. I mean, that's an oversimplification, but that is the first thing I submit to the panel.
I think it's a vast oversimplification.
Okay.
Question that
Yes.
just popped into my head as we're talking about this. If you went down the line 800 to 1500 meters on up, would we be having the exact same conversation about every other country other than the African contingency?
No.
Why are the Norwegians only good at mid distance? Why is all of Europe not represented well in the marathon? Why is South America non-existent across the board? For
Let's
example.
take Japan or China.
Okay. But
Mm.
you get what I'm getting at here though.
I do. There is a conversation like this for each nation, but like Japan and China have phenomenally deep marathon programs.
But if you look at the top 100, how many are sitting in it?
In the marathon, I would say somewhere around 20.
Okay. And their track presence is almost non-existent, we would
You,
say.
you have like 2 female athletes.
Yeah, almost. Okay. But I just think that's a
Yeah.
question worth posing. Like, is all of this just the world versus the East Africans?
That's
Right?
part of yeah, I think that is it in and of
Right?
itself a great question as well. But
Okay.
what I'm saying is that let's say you take an athlete in our country and overseas, oftentimes that is represented by a soccer player. Someone who is athletic, in shape, in shape enough to bring out their natural talent, but not so trained that they have maximized really anything. What event are they going to have the most success in?
Something in the 1 to 5 minute range.
Right. So if you have a singular talent or any talent, if you are untapped or you haven't expanded upon that talent and well rounded it, you're going to be better in the mile than you're going to be in the 5K. You're going to be better in the 5K than you're going to be in the marathon. And so
Mhm.
if you extrapolate that out, that's also the same thing I'm saying about pro level runners. Even once they have maximized everything out, it takes less types of talent to be good at the mile than it does to be good at the 10K. 10K, you need both sides of the coin. You need to have very good speed. You need to have very good endurance. You need to have very good stamina. You don't need good endurance or stamina to be a good miler. We've
People
seen
would
people
argue with you
win
on that, but yes, I get
a
what you're
world
saying.
championship off 20 miles per week. We've seen it off 120 miles per week. You can't
Yeah.
say that same thing about a 10K or marathon, right?
No, you cannot.
And then that opens the door to being able to withstand volume in training. And that's a whole nother piece. So what I'm saying is that it is simpler to be good at middle distance than it is at long distance. You need
And you have
less
to
skills.
and you have to think about how great the US is at youth sports and feeder sports that eventually get people to find themselves into track, whether
Yes.
it's sprints or it's mid distance or what we'll call distance 5K, 10K. We are one of the privileged countries in which have fantastic programs in which develop children at young ages. Other countries do too, but when they finally reach the wall in soccer or they realize hockey is done for them and then they end up finding out like, oh my god, I have a talent at running, it's going to be in those shorter distance wheelhouse as well. So I think we do a good job with feeder sports that eventually land athletes on the track, just not in a direct route where, let's say, the East Africans have run groups at age 7 to 9 where they head down the road together because they have less organization. If some of the poor countries, cities,
Yeah.
nations. And so I think there's something right there talking about why we're good at shorter and maybe how that leads us to have what 20 in the top 100 in the 1500.
Well, and I think that's a great second point to focus on is what gets found has to be looked for.
Yeah.
Speed jumps off the page in any sport that we play in the United States almost. Like you
Mm-hmm.
just see explosion, you say that kid needs to run track. Marathon potential does not jump off the page in most sports. And if it does, it's because you're strong in the second half and you're still attacking. And sometimes they'll be like, oh, that person's a dog, or that person's such a gritty soccer player, or that person just is such a closer or finisher, or they're such a great competitor. But you don't necessarily look at that and be like, we need to get that kid in a distance program
How,
now.
how often do you think at like recess or gym class, let's say like a world class 1500-meter runner as a kid, how often do you think the 1500-meter athlete was picked last in gym class? Ever?
Yeah.
How about the marathoners?
Yeah.
Could be a good chance.
Yeah,
Blind as a bat, no hand-eye coordination, but somehow it is in there. It's just not discovered as early.
right.
Where's the opportunity?
That's exactly it. And if you look at, let's say, East Africans or Japan or China, where endurance running is more of a cultural phenomenon, you look for those traits earlier and you
Yeah.
go in on those. We all the time see people win like the junior world championships at like 17 and the next year are competing at worlds at 18 or 19
Mhm.
in those countries. We have them going off to college here because they haven't even started building their volume up. They haven't even started exploring those realms where by 17, they're running 80 to 120-mile weeks and they have run 10Ks on the track and they might be jumping up to a half marathon soon in other nations. So the youth development system is not geared to finding marathoners. We find marathoners when track stops working for you at shorter distances.
Mhm. Well, let's talk about that then. So, let's talk about the upbringing of the runners in sport in our country. It is solely in the on the track, and it ends at 5K on the high school level. Okay,
Mm.
5K is where our distance ends, boys or girls.
And that's only
And
cross country,
right, there's no 10K opportunity for boys and girls on the track. Even I don't
right?
know of any national
2 mile.
level 2 mile. Right. And I don't know what's in other countries, so I can't speak knowingly. Like, what if you live in Kenya? Like, do they have a marathon championships for U18? Probably. But point being, we don't have that here that I know of, do we?
No, but we have things like in Japan, the Aikiden, these long road race championships that are like a national treasure over there.
Hmm.
We don't have things like that here. The 2 mile is the prestige distance event in high school.
So
Prestige.
funny.
Cross country 5K.
Looking back, being like 2 mile being a distance event. Like for most
Yeah.
normal humans in adulthood, that's a sprint at this point.
To an elite high school athlete, you're talking 9 minutes or under of effort. That's barely over VO2 max.
That's
Like,
right.
what is that a predictor of?
Well, talent for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, but
um,
can you differentiate an 8:45 2 miler? Can you predict whether they'll be better at the 1 mile or the marathon off an 8:45?
it's
No.
a good start for both.
It's a good start for both, but it
Yeah.
clarifies nothing.
Yeah. I agree with you. Okay, so I think, we're brought up as track humans, right? And
Mhm.
people follow their passions, and if it's all you know and it's your upbringing, and many countries are this way. I'm a miler. I am going to pursue that until I can't anymore. And because of the upbringing there, I'm trying to think of other countries, make sure I don't put my foot in my mouth. Um, we are later to the marathon in general
Mhm.
than other countries, in particular the African nations. We are later to try our first marathon. The average, and usually it's the Connor Manses of the world who are great, fantastic, but find that they still need to find 30 seconds in the 10K. He can't find that. He needs to find the same amount of time in the 5K almost, but in the marathon, he can play.
Mhm.
And so him at 25, 25, 24, 25,
I mean, he's BYU, he's probably 35.
he's probably 35. Yes. Point being, that's about as young as we see Connor Mance. Let's say he's 25 or 26. That's about as young as we see really pushing the marathon. Can you
Right.
think of, whereas in other nations, you're going to see this guy's 17, 18, 19, 20, loads of 21-year-old Africans are running the marathon on the majors level, but not in the US.
He's 26.
26.
No.
And I look at him as young.
Yeah.
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 Did you look something up?
I just had it up. He's born in 96. Oh, that's
That's
28?
28. Yeah. Your
Jeez.
math is 28, potentially 28, 27 or 28, depending on when he's born. Most likely, yeah,
Right.
28. And
And
he's
he's part
young,
of our
right?
young crew.
At 28. What's the part of the young crew in other nations? 21, 22 in the marathon?
Well, Donovan Brazier was winning a world championship before he was 20, right? Or at 20 in our 800 meters for us.
I don't know how old he was.
Cole Hawker made it to the Olympic final coming out of college.
22, maybe even 21.
Yeah, 21.
Mhm.
So, I mean, it's just even in our own nation, that's old for a
Hobbs
track runner.
Kessler, 5th at the US Olympics, 18, 19.
19 maybe.
Anyways, yeah.
Yeah. So I think that that's a big part of the sister fact to that is that you grow up aspiring to be one of your heroes.
Hmm.
And in our nation, there is a long list of options for sporting heroes before you get to marathon. A long list. And in other nations, the list is not as long. If you can't be a footballer, distance running might be the next best thing you can do in your nation. If it's not footballing or cricket, it might be endurance running. The marathon
And
champion,
by football, you mean football,
football,
just so people are
americano.
aware. No, you mean soccer.
True.
Okay, just making sure people understood, not
Yes,
American
yes,
football.
soccer, cricket.
Yeah.
If you can't do one of those things, then let's be a marathoner or let's be a 10K runner. Those things have status over there. And so, I mean, you've coached high school. I've coached high school. Part of being a high school coach early on is trying to identify what event they should be in. But the very first thing that gets asked is, what do you want to run? And so the first thing that happens is the kid chooses what event they think they want to be good at.
Mhm.
That's part of the process. You don't hear 10K. You rarely hear 2 mile in high school. I want to be a 2 miler coach. You have to talk kids into running the 2 mile.
You have to
You don't
talk kids
hear
into running the
marathon.
800.
Yeah.
Everybody
Yeah.
wants to run the 400 and under, mostly the 1 and the 2.
Yeah. And
100.
oftentimes I'm going to be a distance runner, but it's not I want to be. It's I understand I don't have foot speed.
Mhm.
Whereas in some of these other nations, if you come out and you do your tryout, usually at a track tryout, they'll have you run like a 40-meter dash or a 50 or 60, 100, maybe a 400, maybe a mile. If you run a 450 flat in America, they're putting you into a sprint group. If you run a 450 flat in Africa, they're setting you up to be a distance runner who's going to have a devastating kick at the end of the race. That's the way this works. Unless you are very clearly a 100-meter runner who can extend to 400, then they make a different call. But they see foot speed and think that's exactly what we look for. We see foot speed and think sprint group because
Mhm.
we need points at our dual meet and at our triangular. We need all the points we can get. And that is one of the worst things about our track and field program. Allow me to step up onto my soapbox is that there are coaches who prioritize their wins and loss record in track and field. It is the single most destructive thing to skill development in youth track and field is caring about dual meets and triangulars and quad meets. We need the maximum points we can get. And so you put a 12 flat 100-meter runner in the 100 so he can take 8th place and get a point for the team rather than saying, if we can develop this kid into an 800-meter runner or a miler with 12 flat speed as a sophomore, now we've got something cooking for him down the road. It's no, I need team
Mhm.
points. That is something I feel passionately about. And
Mhm.
this is a big factor into why we don't push fast kids to longer events. Real sprint speed, Kirk, does not lie. You have it early on. And if you're not one of those, I don't think you should be in the sprints. I think you
Mm.
should be put into middle distance or distance.
It's a heck of a lot easier to triple in the 1, the 2, the 4x1, and then quadruple in the long jump
Mm-hmm.
than it is to go run the 8, the 1 mile, and the 2 mile.
Yep.
They're not one and the same
No.
as far as demand goes. So there's more return on things in the shorter events because if you're good at one, oh, it easily bleeds to the other ones with very little repercussion from racing the event itself. Whereas if
Right.
you race the mile and then have the 2 mile a half an hour later, it's a little bit of a different game we're talking about. So you see the multi-event in the shorter, for points, so to speak. That's a
Yeah.
valid argument.
But if you're the third best quarterback on a high school football team, you know what you do? You play running back or you play wide receiver or you play tight end. They find a different spot where you can find out if you have any other skill there. If you're the third best 100-meter dash runner on the team, you run the 100-meter dash. Even though you very
Mhm.
clearly are probably not going to be a college sprinter, that's not your best chance at being something. It's your best chance right now to score points for the team.
Mhm.
That does not exist in East Africa.
I haven't listened to the Are You Talented episode you did solo when I
Okay.
was out, but you got a lot of feedback on it, and I would say that if you are not talented from the gun, there is no hope for you for 400 meters and under. I don't think that can be developed.
No.
I don't think it can. But however, once we start getting up maybe to the 8th or the mile and certainly longer, the early talent can be developed. But I really think those fast twitch athletes, like if you're not fast as a kid and you want to be a 200-meter runner, all the training in the world, the best coach's nutrition regimen, not even going to hold a candle to the true talented short distance athletes, which is what's great about long distance running
Yeah.
is it can be developed, but I really don't think you can curate explosiveness to the level it needs to be any sort of competitive in a short event.
Yeah. You can get more explosive, but you will never catch up to the natural gifted athlete. Never.
No, you got a 4-cylinder. Ride that baby along. Like if he's
Yeah.
got an 8-cylinder with turbo boosters, like it doesn't matter what you do to your 4-cylinder.
Yeah.
But it doesn't work that way the other way around. You got an 8-cylinder, 4-cylinder could win out in a 3-hour race
If you
if
have
it's
a
executed correctly.
10.9 and an 11.9 100-meter dasher as freshmen in high school, the 11.9 is not catching the 10.9, assuming they've both gone through the same level of or percentage of their puberty process. You're not
Right.
catching that 1 second. But if that 11.9 athlete is a 20-minute 5K runner going up against another 20-minute 5K runner who's a 13 flat 100-meter runner, the
Mhm.
11.9 will be the better racer someday. If you develop them both to the same level, that 11.9 will always have the advantage in the race because they are just faster.
Hmm. Yeah, we could go down that rabbit hole. I want to pivot. I want
Okay,
to I want to skid sideways with this vehicle right now. Squeal the tires a little bit.
do it.
What do you think about this? Are Americans really Americans? Or
Yes,
are we
but we're not
So-
native to
Correct.
America.
It's a touchy time to be an American, but what I'm saying is we're really of other descent, right?
Yes.
We don't have a long line of lineage dating back tens of thousands of years unless you're a Native American, which there are plenty of course, Native Americans living here. So then you have to look at where we've come from, right? All over the place. Let's say it. We are generally mutts of European descent. And of course, we have other people who have immigrated here. And so we have a good melting pot. What I'm getting at here is this: how long has the lineage of the Eastern Africans been living at 10,000 feet for how many of generations with cardiovascular development literally ingrained in their DNA to consume and utilize oxygen versus us? When did the Americans inhabit the US and what regions did we hail from and what sort of um, evolution did we go through based on where our ancestors had lived forever? And then you take, if this is a conversation of Americans or European descent versus East
Mhm.
Africans, and you say, how many hundreds and thousands and tens of thousands of years have there been the same people living at 12,500 feet above sea level in their mountain town, right?
Mhm.
Developing the most efficient system to live at altitude and elevation without a hitch in their giddy up to live an efficient life, right?
Mhm.
And so you could, I'm taking this thing sideways. So if you just strip it down and say, okay, do the contingent nations just have a pot of people that have um, been developing for tens of thousands of years that we haven't?
Yes.
And it translates to the long distance. Is it
Yeah.
that simple?
Yeah. It is. It is also that simple.
Okay.
And so living at altitude is a big thing. Not all of Africa is at altitude, but a
No, no,
lot
no.
of East Africa is.
And
And
high altitude, quite high
yeah,
altitude.
a lot of it's about around like 6. You'll get 6 to 9, which is high enough. Plenty
Yeah.
high. But it's ingrained into their life. And there's been studies that people not born at altitude will never catch up to those born at altitude. That your developing years have such a higher level of influence on your cardiovascular transport system than going there later in life when those systems have already been developed. So there is absolutely a component there. The other side you hear talked about is
Mhm.
actual like skeletal structure and frame, and you'll hear this statement that East Africans have skinnier blanks. Africans have lighter skeletal structures. That is not correct. But
The bones
it's
are hollow like birds, Brakken. It's legal cheating.
but it's so wrong that it's right without knowing it. Do you know
Well,
this, Kirk?
I I know where you're going with it, but please go ahead.
It's actually the dead opposite. There have been studies done on morphology of different races and of the structural components, DNA, like the actual building blocks of who we are. And African and Caribbean peoples have denser bones throughout their average populace than European nations do.
Hmm. They're less injury prone
So they're
because of
actually
it.
heavier, not lighter structure. But what the
Okay.
people were trying to say is they have lighter bones and so they're faster actually is wrong, but it's right in that they have heavier, they actually have wider circumference bones at many points in their body. But one side effect of, and this is actual, like higher protein density in their bones in African and Caribbean nations. Crazy. But while they look lighter, it's because they can be. If you start with higher density of your bones, you can have a lighter frame all around those and withstand that and have deterioration of the nutrient profile and not get injured as quickly as if you had less nutrient dense bones and tried to run things really lean and skinny.
Hmm.
This is actual science. Africans have denser bones. They have stronger, healthier bones than any other race on the planet. Africans and people of Caribbean descent. So structurally, they are superior. And where would that come out, Kirk? Would that come out in a
Durability,
1500? Would that
injury
come out?
prevention, and long races. Yeah.
Or would that come out in the training necessary to keep a super low body fat percentage and run over 100 miles per week in preparation for a marathon?
You just said it.
So, yes, there is a physiological component to this as well.
Yes. Okay. I didn't know you were going to take it there, but I have to imagine we can split the hairs of, I think, like the kingpin, right? The nucleus of this whole thing has to do with descent and origin. And if you believe in evolution, evolution of people who have and have not for generations times infinity lived in places in which develop cardiovascularly superior systems. And I'm not saying that can't happen for people who have lived in the Patagonia region for
Mhm.
hundreds and I'm saying like it can happen anywhere, but it's more common in certain places, and it's certainly not common in the United States or North America because we haven't been here that long.
No,
And if you're an evolutioner, it takes a lot of time for those things to kind of come around, multi hundreds of generations potentially.
right.
So I think it's a valid conversation. Just the general, if the average build, if you take an East African or you could even use the Asian nations, but let's say East African. If you take the average 5'10" white guy from America and you take the average 5'10" African, the average 5'10" American has a 30-inch inseam, and the average 5'10" African has a 33-inch inseam. Yet they have nothing really in the middle, and their rib cage is just as big, and their lung capacity is just as big, but they have they're more likely to be built in a way for endurance and light on the feet than, let's say, a lot of other nations as well. Like you look at predisposition that way. Not that there aren't exceptions. There's plenty of
Mhm.
people born in the US who have that exact same. They're 5'10" with a 33-inch inseam and they're built just like most of the Africans. That happens. But I'm saying if it's a numbers game,
Mhm.
I think that's part of it too.
Well, and that's exactly it, right? It's a numbers game. So you take, let's say, East Africa, a place where it's just like lightning in a bottle. All these things have come together at once. You have a bone density that's scientifically higher. You have a nation that has less sporting idols in other realms to distract you from trying to be a distance runner. And you have more people trying it. And it all comes together with it's a numbers game. You have more viable subjects trying the actual study needed to get the results.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
the longer the race goes, the more all of those factors come into play rather than just one thing like VO2 max or anaerobic threshold. You just have more wiggle room for finding what you need the longer the race goes.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. I'm gonna take this sideways, and I better watch myself here, and then let's get us right back on track.
Okay.
Um, People being overweight is a epidemic, we can call it. It's only
Yeah.
increasing across the globe, right? It's not just U.S. centric, but it certainly is not U.S. centric, right? European nations, first world countries that are more comfortable, and it makes me wonder how many people with the potential are, let's say, living in our nation with a system that could be capable of greatness,
Mhm.
but it's covered in 300 pounds of blubber. And it's
Mhm.
never had the chance to find out because of lifestyle here
Mhm.
over the last generations. I often wonder, like, some of the people I know who were some of the absolute, I can think of two in particular that were, I mean, prodigies in high school. Now have 100 pounds of fat over them, and they're a shell of what their potential is because of lifestyle or genetic factors or whatever it is. And I often wonder, like, as far as high on the scale, European and Americans, there is a heck of a lot of people who are just never going to have the chance because physically they are not in a place to even have it be uncovered due to the way we live, as a vast overstatement.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot more of us here that will never even know that we could have been because we're not in we don't have the structure to do so anymore, or it gets to us early with the way we were brought up or things like that. Just something I think about as well.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people with great engines that are never going to be able to perform to their best because the car's too heavy, we will call it.
We find a way smaller percent of our endurance athletes than these other nations find.
Yeah, you
That's
just
a
said it.
fact.
I just said it more crudely.
But to your point, there have been studies on this as well. And across the board, l- lifestyle trumps nutrition for longevity and athletic performance. Your training is more important than what you eat. Your activity level in your lifestyle, the healthfulness of that trumps the healthfulness of what you're putting into your body. Now, in a perfect world, it's synergistic. And then
Mhm.
you don't have to in a first world country choose between the two, but we do.
Mhm.
We do. And it's generally neither. We choose a sedentary lifestyle that's high stress and comfort food and convenience food.
Mhm.
So we kind
Many
of take
places
the
do.
worst of both worlds. And as a result, yeah, we uncover way less of our potential than other nations do.
Yeah. I think that's what I was getting at. Okay, so if we're gonna bring it back now, I took us a little bit sideways and you entertained it, so thank you. But now, like, as far as the other things, maybe a little less fringy, theoretical.
Yeah.
What else do you have?
Well, I think maybe if there are three pillars, the third pillar is training groups and style of training.
Sure.
In our pro track circuits, every pro group has an absolute monster in it at this point. Every training group has, it seems like, an Olympic qualifier.
Multiple monsters in most of them.
Yeah. Our marathon groups can't necessarily say the same. There are a lot of people who, like birds of a feather, flock together for the marathon world. It's friends or pre existing relationships are training together, or locations are training together. You don't see a 2-0 marathoner in every group. And as a result, it's the rising tide raises all ships approach. Africa has that. Japan has that. China has that. The great marathoning nations have every group has a world-class training athlete in it. And it just pulls everyone up. It's proven over time. We just rise to the level of the people that we train with, even if we never get to their level.
Mhm.
Every group in Africa has multiple of those. That doesn't exist in marathoning world in the United States. It does exist in the sprint world. It does exist in the middle distance world. It does not exist in the marathoning world. And that is a massive, massive gain for other nations to live with people who are world class and train with them day in and day out.
An example of that would be Dakota Lindworm, who was the first U.S. Female finisher at the marathon. She finished, what did she finish? She was like, really outkicked her coverage.
I can't give you a number.
It was a ninth or low teens. It was
I was going to say 11th.
Fantastic. Anyways, I know we referred to him a good bit, but Tyler German said, who trains with Minnesota Distance Elite, and Dakota Lindworm trains with Minnesota Distance Elite, which is a local training group here in Minnesota. Nobody would really take her. She, was allowed to come and train with Minnesota Distance Elite, run with the boys.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some fantastic women athletes on the roster as well. And this is, factual. Dakota Lindworm went from not even on the fringe of the conversation and joining Minnesota Distance Elite and training with others who are training for the similar things, and becomes the first female at the Olympics, improving by like tens of minutes in the marathon. She's not even on the same planet as she used to be because she entered into a training group, got plugged in to an inviting world, could run with the boys and the girls, and voila. It's not so voila after years and years of training, but that is what happened to her. She was floundering and then got some traction by joining a group. And I think it's still, she's one example,
mm-hmm.
but it's still a numbers game. If there are 20 East African groups and those groups range from 20 to 100 people, if you ever see the videos on the internet of them heading out for their training runs and it looks like a crowd it's astounding. It's still a numbers game. And maybe there are I'm sure there's a few high-end marathon training groups in the United States that are comprised of dozens of people. How many of them are 2.0 marathoners? Basically none. But what I'm getting at is, let's say there's 100 marathoners in the United States training in groups, purposeful groups. What are there, 10,000 in other countries maybe? Still a numbers game, right? Which is really what you're getting at, is there's, subject studies are just less.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly the way it works. In those groups, every single person is hanging on to someone ahead of them. Mm-hmm. And that person's hanging on to someone ahead. You look at our groups, they're running in a pack. They're just each other. You need that next level. If you look at our own college, that's the way high school to college went for us. Like, we completed puberty and didn't necessarily get better, and then got a new group and got better.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the best kid on our team ran 2 flat in the 800. I ran 201. He got to a 157. I went 159. The next team I was on down at Campbell, no one's running fast, 157. I was 159. I get to my next university and guys are running 153. I ran 155. They get down to 151. I run 153. Mm-hmm. You just progress. Now, there's some growth and development as an athlete in there, but you don't go from 159 to 155 after doing the same thing for 2 years without something changing. And that something was the level of people around me. You run with them every day at practice. They pull you to things in practice, and then you become the next level. And that's really important in the marathon. Very, very important, because the training's so mundane, but there's so much of it. There's more training for the marathon than there is for the mile. And since there's so much of it, if you miss by 0.5% or percent, not knowing you're leaving something there, and you miss it for 140 miles per week, the gap is bigger than if you miss it for 80 miles per week.
Yeah. Here's the hope, though. Here's where the rose-tinted glasses are on and the future is bright. We are on the rise.
Yes.
The development of our younger, and this goes across the world, but it will help the U.S. as well, with the presence of social media, with making superstars being created of themselves by social media channels and media content, and the upbringing, the NIL deals, and the availability and funding for athletes. And with this wave of marathoners who I believe are being more available to us because of media, we have a few more heroes. We have few things to aspire to that we just couldn't come across a decade ago or 2 decades ago because of the platforms in which we consume content. And so, I mean, they're making superstars, out of these young kids. If I have to see Lex and Leo Young or Simeon Birnbaum's name, everybody kissing their butts as these 16, 17-year-olds, which you never would see before. Sure, you get an Alan Webb on the cover of Sports Illustrated, which is astronomically huge, but he's not shoved down your throat every day when you open up your phone. Now, these people are, whether it's themselves or media outlets, gathering content from them or races or anything else. And I think this talent is going to be curated a bit younger. I think people are going to be fed in gradually a bit younger if they see a talent in those things. Most programs don't want to rush the younger generation in the US to those long distances, but I feel like there's the option to choose now a bit more, especially post-collegiately, and you're seeing a few do it. You're seeing some younger ones do it. And so I think it's only going to be on the rise. My hope is that this is the beginning. But I only see it going positively that direction based on the few things I said. What's your take on that angle?
It's 100% right. We, in the last generation of running, so in the last 5 to 10 years ago, we saw people go from college to the marathon with no track or road racing in between for the first time ever consistently. And now we're seeing people try it in college or leave college early to go to the marathon. That is the next step. That only makes us better at the marathon. Like Eliud Kipchoge, who is the greatest marathoner of all time, and it's not even close. He was a 5K world champ, and then he was getting out kicked. Like he was a 12:58, I want to say, 5K runner, world champion. He wasn't a for sure medal lock at world championships or Olympics, and it was hard to make teams, and he went to the marathon. Really young. We haven't had that. If our guys can be top 3 in a shorter event, they stay in that event and they see how far they can get there. They don't say, I think I'm going to take this unique skill set up a distance. Well, we're starting to think that way. We're really starting to think that way. And it's going to take time, but it's going in the right direction. And our current crop is going to do it. I don't think Clayton Young and Connor Mance are going to be our world champion Olympic marathoners. They're going to be in the top 10 for a long time, but I don't think they're our end game, but they're our bridge to our end game. Nico Young's the next generation. He's going to move up quick. The people after him are going to move up quicker. Right now, we're laying the groundwork. They are laying the groundwork for what's going to come next. And that happened decades ago in other nations, and it's starting to happen now. So I don't think that the narrative stays the way it is for the US. I think it is, for right now, this is what's happening, but it's already changing.
We have to wrap this conversation. The other unique thing or interesting thing is the path right now. Really the only path, unless you are one of the rare few, is to go through the collegiate system, develop even further, and then warrant yourself to be invited to be a sponsored athlete or join a training group, and then take it from there. Yeah, if you graduate BYU, you're 24 or 25. If you graduate other universities, you're 22 or 23, because most all of them use a redshirt year because of injury or talent development or something like that. In Africa, your routes are to go, I mean, don't get me wrong, there's a collegiate system in Africa, of course, but your routes are to go foreign and get an education and compete somewhere outside of your country and be given a good amount of money to do so, your tuition, etc. Or there are 18-year-old training camps and development camps in which people go right from whatever high school, let's call it, their version of it, right into professional athlete training camp, whatever that looks like for them. Their step isn't high school, college, let's see what happens. Their step is high school, we're going right into like seeing where this goes immediately afterwards. I'm not, in quotes, distracted by biology or my test that's coming up or all the other compounding factors of being a collegiate athlete, which gets vastly overlooked, the stress these kids are under. But nonetheless, they're filtered right in if they want to. We don't really have a system for that quite yet. Unless they're picked right out of high school and sponsored, which is so rare. There's only one or two I can think of off the top of my head. Yeah. So there's also that too. It's starting 4 to 6 years earlier in East Africa for a lot of these athletes than it is here. Do you get what I'm getting at?
I do. And the earlier you can start, the better.
Yeah.
Absolutely. In almost anything in life, the earlier you start, the quicker you master it. You learn quicker when you're younger. Your systems are more readily available for change and adaptation when you're younger, and you avoid bad habits. You avoid rabbit holes, which is every bit as destructive as anything else. Avoiding bad habits is a huge benefit of getting into a pro style training camp early. There are negatives to it as well. Absolutely. You're going to burn out a
Right.
lot of kids. You're going to lose a lot of kids. But nations like that lose more kids than we start with.
Yeah. Man, we really kind
We
of threw a
thought we
bunch,
couldn't make it an hour on this.
and we could keep going. We just threw a bunch of crap at the wall is what we just did. And we didn't really solve anything. We were just throwing shit sandwiches around, and they can do with it with what they want, listeners.
Mhm.
What do you think?
My hope is that it comes off as not all doom and gloom,
It's not.
because we weren't this good at the 1500 and the 5K and the 10K. And now we are. There's no
And
reason we can't get there in the
I
middle.
agree with you. And I think we will. And if we want to have the opposite conversation about why are we so good at the shorter distances, we absolutely can. And that way we can end this chapter on a positive note.
Maybe we do that next week.
I'll be curious what you guys think of this conversation, because we often stay away from opinion pieces. And not that this is an opinion piece, but it certainly is half of one.
It's not fact.
So I'd be curious if you guys want more of this or less of this. We try to teach you something, and this, I don't know what we taught you other than talk something through. So I don't know. I'd be curious if it's well received or not.
Kirk, is good seeing you as always.
You as well, brother. You got to go pick up the kids, I believe.
Yep. You got work to do. Let's get after it.
All right.
See ya.